Hi, thanks for joining me. So today I'm going to be talking about the latest album from Jerome Sabbagh. Now, I recently did a video on Jerome's, well, it was the first of Jerome's albums I heard, Vintage, which I'll put a link to up here. And that came to my attention because there's people like Michael Fremer and the like were raving about it, actually. You know, it was getting very, very, very high praise for both the music and the recording and sort of pressing quality and everything, sound quality of it. And Vintage certainly absolutely blew me away. And that's talking about the vinyl version, but also being a sort of a tape head like I am. I couldn't resist getting it on tape, and the same goes for this. This is the follow-up album, Heart, and as you can see here, this features Jerome Sabbagh on tenor sax, Joe Martin on bass, and the great Al Foster on drums. Al Foster's played with Miles Davis and Sonny Rollins and a long list, too long for me to mention, to be perfectly honest. And it's, this is an absolutely superb sounding album, but musically as well. It's really, really, really cool, great jazz. And I'm not a massive lover of contemporary jazz, actually. Most of the stuff I listen to is, on vinyl from sort of the 50s and 60s, just touching into the 70s. And, I supplement that with shellac on 78s from the sort of 20s, 30s and 40s. So for me to listen to a modern, or not modern jazz, contemporary jazz, is really quite rare. But this is an absolute stunning sounding record. And I'll just show you the tapes as well. This is the box for tape 1. And you can see in here that you get one beautiful reel of tape. And this is just the way it goes. With tapes, you've got one reel for each side of the album. So here we've got reel 2 and a download card there. Both the tape and the vinyl, you get I think it's actually a 192 download, so it's high quality. I haven't actually tried that, so don't hold me to that. But yeah, you can buy this on tape or vinyl, and obviously I appreciate the vast majority of you viewing will be vinyl only. Maybe some are digital only, and if that's the case, then buy it on vinyl, buy it on CD, download it, stream it, whatever, and there will be links down in the video description. But I just wanted to tell you a little bit more about this. You've got 8 tracks on here. So we've got Prelude to a Kiss, that's Duke Ellington, ESP, Wayne Shorter, then Heart is Jerome Sabbagh's own composition, Gone with the Wind, and then a side B, Right the First Time, which is a sort of improvised piece with the 3 musicians here. When the Lights Are Low, Benny Carter. Lead the Way, again, is another improvisation between the 3 of these guys. And then Body and Soul sort of wraps the album up. But there's a few things that are very special about this. Musically, it's beautiful, but sonically, it is absolutely out of this world. And I recently did a video on the Louis Armstrong album, Satchmo Plays King Oliver. I'll put a link to that up here. Staggering sounding record, absolutely staggering. This is of that level of fidelity. It is absolutely incredible. And I know I've got this on tape, and I have written a full review, quite sort of in-depth, track by track, all the technicalities of the recording and everything, which I've put on my website, The Reel to Reel Rambler. But I want to point out that all those listening notes that I refer to in the the review I just mentioned, were done listening to the vinyl LP. The tape just takes it up another level. So you know, please head over to the Realtree Rambler and have a read of that. You know, even if you're not you're not into tape, because it all applies. You know, what we're really talking about here is an astonishing performance and recording, and it's all done live, and that's the really cool thing. The three guys are in the studio. They've got Jerome's favourite recording engineer, a chap called James Farber, and you need to be absolutely on top of your game to do this, because what they do is they play live with no edits. You can't go, you know, if you mess something up, you've got to go back and start again, the whole song. They'll play live, all three of them being together, and that signal goes into the desk, which is a classic Neve desk, incidentally. All the microphones are sort of classics. And then James Farber's obviously doing that mix, and any panning and anything like that, everything has to be done live, on the fly. Because instead of what would normally happen is the mic feeds would go into the desk, certain sort of, you know, adding reverb, this, that and the other may be done, you know, EQ, and then they'd go off to a 16 or 24 track recorder, whether that's digital or analog. Then that would be played back, and all the, you know, the finer points of the mix would be done. You know, reverb might be added to one or two tracks, or all the tracks, or whatever, you know, the thing's mixed, and then that is recorded to the master or the final mix, depending on, you know, what you want to call these things. In contrast, this is played live. That mixing is done literally live, along with the you know, the players playing live. The mix is being done live by James Farber, and that's been recorded to 2-track 1/2-inch 30 IPS tape. So that tape is not only the first, it's the original thing that's been taped. The signal doesn't have to go back into the desk for mixing. It doesn't then get re-recorded onto a second tape. This is it. The first tape is the one that actually then is any editing, and we're just talking editing about putting the tracks in order and arranging the tape so that you've got, you know, if we look here, Prelude to a Kiss, ESP, Heart, and Gone with the Wind. So you've got sort of 18 minutes, one side of an LP, all on one reel with the appropriate size gaps between the tracks to send to Bernie Grundman, who cuts from that tape. So Bernie is actually cutting this LP from, you know, not a mixed tape or the production master or whatever you want to call it. He is actually cutting it from the original session tape, if you like, okay? Which is also the master, which is also the mix. And then for what's more, once Bernie's made that cut, the tape goes off to, I think it's called Grey Matter Audio, the company that duplicates and produces these reel-to-reel tapes. So it's you know, what you get is, there is no closer, basically. There is no closer to the source, to the reality. And believe me, the sound quality is absolutely unparalleled. And it is one of the best sounding records I've ever heard. It is just the most natural, analog, real sounding thing you've ever heard. I mean, the presence of the three musicians in your living room is just staggering. It literally makes your heart jump when Al Foster hits the drums sometimes, and it is staggering. You can absolutely see the musicians in your living room. It is absolutely stunning. I don't know what more to say about it, really. The music is beautiful. For those of you who know Jerome Sabbagh but don't have this album, just run out and get it. For those of you who don't, there is a link in the description where you can stream, have a listen. But even streaming, you're not going to get the real benefit of this till you go out and buy this LP, or for the very, very rare few of you who sit in that niche of tape lovers, go out and get the tape. And it is available on CD as well for those who that's their medium of choice. Now, to go into more detail about the recording, about the microphones used, the processes of the recorder, the recorders used, etc. I actually had a conversation with Jerome, and I'm going to insert that in just a moment. But before we go to that, I'll say thanks for watching this far, and do check out the links below. And if you do nothing else, go to the streaming link and just have a listen to the album, because it's mind-blowingly good. And there's a couple of tracks on here that are actually verging on free jazz, and I've it's no secret that free jazz is something that I just don't have the palate for. I want to get the palate for it. I've tried. I've got I've got some Ornette Coleman, and I can't. I just don't dig it. I don't get it. But that's not to say it's rubbish. It's just my palate is undeveloped. But there's a couple of songs on here which sort of tiptoe along the periphery of free jazz, and they absolutely draw me in. So I think this is this could be my gateway, if you like, into the world of free jazz. And if there's nothing else I can say about this, it is just it is a stunning record. Right, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Jerome, and I hope that you enjoy his technical description of what's going on. Okay, great to see you again, and just wanted to ask you some questions.
Sure.
And about the technicalities of it, really. But basically, I think the album is. I prefer it even to vintage, and I was knocked out by vintage. So brilliant, well done.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate
so I know
that.
I know you're saying that because vintage was recorded in lockdown, that there were a few things you didn't do, which you would have rather done, which you've done on Heart. And could you sort of, in terms of the recording, the setup and everything, can you maybe run through those?
Sure. So vintage was done indeed during lockdown, and I kind of prefer these days recording live to two track, which means the mixing is done at the same time as we're playing, which requires a very good engineer because you're committing to your mix and you got to make all your choices in the moment. So mic choices, panning, EQ, if any, uh, like reverb, all those kind of things, you have to set them and then you have to live with them. So you have to make good choices. Now, the engineer who I really like is James Farber, and he wasn't available during lockdown.
Okay.
So I didn't really trust anyone else to do a live to two because that's just a really difficult thing to pull off. And this being a particularly important record for me with Kenny Barron on it and all that, I decided to go multi-track. So this is how I ended up recording to multi-track tape, and then later mixing from the 2-inch multi-track tape to half-inch tape.
Right.
So for Heart, we did a live to two with James Farber, and that saves one step because when you're recording multi-track, you're recording to 2-inch tape,
Sure.
and then you're going through the desk again, and then you're mixing to half-inch. And that can sound great, and I think it does sound great, but it's twice more tape and twice more desk. So it is a longer signal path, and generally speaking, I think the shorter the signal path, the better the sound quality, at least in theory. And I found that to be true most of the times, at least.
Sure. So that half-inch 30 IPS 2-track tape, that's kind of the only session tape, recording tape, whatever you want to call it. And that's also functioning as the master, is that right? Or did you sort of edit that to make a master tape?
Well, we had to edit because, the reels are like you get 16 minutes a reel at 30 IPS.
Yeah.
So, there's 8 songs on the record. So you gotta physically cut out with a razor blade the songs you want on your record from each reel, and
Yeah.
then you assemble them as side A and side B on a larger reel so
Yeah.
that the record can be cut all analog. But it is the same tape that we recorded on. It's just edited together. So the
Okay. Yeah.
tape wasn't copied. It's not second generation. It's not what's called a production master. It is the actual tape that we recorded on, except it just got edited together as side A and side B so that Bernie Grundman can cut the record all analog, which is what
Yeah.
we did.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. Because the normal thing, yeah, like you say, what often would happen is edits and that would all take place along with the mix, but it's losing a generation. So you
Yeah,
took
every time
one
you're
and only
copying
copy
something,
and took a razor
yeah,
to it.
every time you're copying something, you're losing quality.
Yeah.
So it's better if you can get away with not doing that, it's better. In our case, you're always taking a chance because you're shipping the tape to LA. If it gets lost, it gets lost. Like, you're always a little bit like jittery,
Yeah.
because you definitely need that tape to not get
Absolutely.
lost, but it didn't. And yeah, it's the way to preserve the best quality you can.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So literally, what Bernie's cutting from is the same piece of tape, the actual same
Yep.
thing that was recorded. No,
Yes.
absolutely amazing. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the record. It's funny when I played the vinyl LP first. That's kind of a normal way, so to speak, and kind of
Hmm.
got to know that. And I wrote sort of most of my review from at that point. I was certainly, you know, busily churning out notes, um, and it was, I think bearing in mind, I've written the review for the Real Tour Rambler, which is an incredibly niche thing, but I wanted to put this on my YouTube channel as well because the record itself is just a stunning sounding record. I mean, it's apart from the music being really enjoyable and really entertaining and engaging. Sonically, it's just one of the best records I've heard. It's stunning,
Oh
absolutely.
man, thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Actually, reminds me of another record I just recently reviewed was because they've recently repressed the Analog Productions reissue of Louis Armstrong's sings the songs of Kid Ory or something like that. Can't remember now.
Oh, plays King Oliver,
Oh
right?
yeah, plays King
Yeah,
Oil.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Which is just you sit there in front of it, your jaw dropped open, just thinking, hell, this was made in 1950, I think.
I
And
think it's a little later
oh,
than
60,
that, but
1960,
yeah,
yeah,
I think it's
1960.
60. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but like
but
two
yeah,
years
that's
after
a
the
great
advent of
record.
stereo, and just
It's
holy
yeah.
crap.
I have an original. I don't have the reissue, but I have an original of that, and I have a mono and a stereo, and yeah, it's a stunning sounding record for sure.
Yeah, 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 yeah. But it's. I mean, Heart has got an awful lot of that, just in the absolute immediacy of everything. And I mean, the drums. Al Foster's drums are just, so they're in the room. you don't
Yeah,
you don't often hear drums with that intensity, the whole. I mean, there's only three of you, but all three of you sound equally there. But it's one thing having a bass or a saxophone in your living room, but having a drum kit in your living room is
yeah.
quite.
Yeah, I mean, James is a great engineer. We're all in the same room. It's Power Station C. It's a great sounding room.
Yeah,
And then, like it's trying to capture the music. Like Al is he's a legend. He's one of the great drummers ever in jazz.
yeah,
And also his sound is very unique. Like his cymbal sound, the way he tunes the drums, like he spends a long time tuning the drums and his touch is great. So it's his playing is also very articulate. So like you hear every cymbal beat, every stroke on a drum. Like he's very clear and he's very intentional yet organic about everything he does. So, I think but yeah, I think his sound is captured particularly well on this record. I'm really happy with it.
I just wanted to let's just see if I've got a couple of notes here I wanted to ask you. So, what were the microphones and the? Do you want to tell me a little bit about the equipment you used, mics,
Sure.
desk,
So
recorder?
microphones on the tenor sax, it's a vintage Telefunken 251.
Yeah,
So it's about it's like a 70-year-old mic. It's a tube mic. It's a great sounding mic. It's up there with the Neumann's U47s. And in fact, we tried a U47 and we also tried a Ribbon RCA 44. We tried all three on saxophone in the beginning of the session, and
yeah,
they all sounded good. And in fact, I almost went with the 47. I started the first song was the 47. And then when I listened back, it sounded great by itself. I didn't think it sounded as good with the rest of the band, so I switched to the 251. And
okay,
I'm really glad I did because I think that's my favorite mic that I've ever used. And the one at Power Station is a really special sounding one. Like James
right,
Farber was saying, it's the best sounding one he's ever used,
yeah,
and they have it. So we use that on saxophone. On the bass, it's a blend of AKG C24, which is a stereo mic, but we only used one channel of it. So we used one channel of the two channels
yeah,
to make it into a mono mic. And it's that blended with an RCA 77, which is also a vintage ribbon mic. And like the mics are like, pretty close to the bridge. On top of each other, so you don't have phase issues, and so they blend, well. And on drums, James likes to mic every drum, so he does put a mic on like every tom and cymbals and all that. But mostly what you're hearing is the two overheads, left, right, which were Shep's, sorry. Those are not tubes. They're like FET, I think, mics from the 70s or 80s.
yeah,
And there was a Sony C37A in the middle. And most of the sound of the drums is coming from these overheads with a snare mic, tom mic, and hi-hat mic and bass drum mic blended in. But most of the sound you're hearing is the overheads, you know. And then there was a room mic, but we didn't use much of it. It was an AEA R88. And it's a judgment call. Like Power Station is a fairly lively room. So we felt that like when we were dialing up the room mic, we were losing a little bit of that kind of pinpoint clarity. And I was preferring the kind of pinpoint clarity and separation that we got.
yeah.
And I felt we were getting enough of a sense of the room, so we didn't use much of the room mic in this case. But it's always a judgment call, like what to do there.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think just listening to it, the balance of the immediacy of the three of you, so vividly, sort of holographic, but very solid. I always think when you say
Hmm.
holographic, you think of something transparent. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's a real solid holographic meatiness to the three of you. But you're very much in the room, and I think
Yeah, I think the tape
really
helps
good
with
balance.
that too.
Yeah,
I think recording the tape, particularly half inch at 30 IPS, you get more space on the tape
yeah,
because half inch is twice as big as quarter inch, and
yeah,
then 30 IPS is twice as fast as 15.
yeah,
So, you get more room on the tape for the signal, and it's a pretty high resolution. It's a very high resolution tape format, and I think it helps with that feeling of solidity and like you're there kind of thing. I think that's what tape really does. And like, we actually tracked that record three different ways because we were going through a Neve board
right.
and we recorded it to two different tape recorders at the same time. A Tube Ampex 351, which is like a 1960s machine
Hmm.
that my partner Pete Randy and I basically got worked on so that it could do half inch 30 IPS. And Power Station also has a Studer A827, which is like A820 actually,
Right.
which is a solid state 80s machine.
Yeah,
So we went to both these recorders at the same time, thinking that we would pick what we liked better. And as a backup, we also went to Pro Tools, so digital,
right.
at 192, 24.
Yeah.
And if you listen to just the Pro Tools recording, you'd think, oh, this is a really good sounding record. But as soon as you put on either of the tape, it's just way better. Like it sounds way more present,
Yeah.
way more vivid, more solid. It just feels like you're there, and it's got like this kind of solidity
Yeah.
that I think you're alluding to. So, and the Ampex to us sounded quite a bit better than the Studer, so that's what we used for the record. And the Studer sounded good. They sound different, and the digital sounds different too. Like the all three, even though it's the exact same mix recorded at the same time,
Mhm.
all three sound different.
Yeah.
And I actually don't think the digital sounds more, quote, accurate,
Yeah.
unquote. I think the tape sounds more accurate.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think the Ampex capture sounds more to me like we sound in the room,
Yeah.
like the feel of the band in the room and the sound of the band in the room and the subtleties of each instrument and the presence of it. I think the Ampex version is what captures that the best. So that's what we use to make the record you have and the tape you have.
They sound amazing. What only occurred to me when you were just chatting there was, of course, if you're recording straight to half inch, 30 IPM.
Hmm.
So each channel, each tracks, I know there's the space either side of it, but you've basically got quarter inch per channel
Yes,
track.
essentially.
Whereas if you're going to for argument's sake, say a 16 track 2 inch, each track only gets eighth of an inch. Would that be?
16 track 2 inch, so that's like 8 track 1 inch. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
And 16 track 2 inch sounds great.
Oh yeah.
It already sounds great, but like, and it's
Yeah.
better than 24 track 2 inch. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's definitely it's a very high resolution format
Yeah.
in that sense.
Absolutely. And as far as the tape goes, and I'll just show the listeners here what you get with a tape. Um, two boxes. So as far as the tape goes, is this again? Did you make like sort of a production master from that master to copy these, or are these direct from that same tape?
No, these are direct from that same tape. So there are also a copy of the tape, which is pretty rare in the tape world because
Yeah.
usually you do a production master and then copy from that. But every time you make a copy, you lose something. So we chose to copy directly from the actual tape. So what happened is Bernie Grundman, once he was done cutting the record, shipped the tape to Jason Smith's Gray Matter Audio, who's the person who does tape copies for me, and he's
Yeah.
great at it.
Yeah.
And Jason took that same tape, and he can run several machines at the same time. So we don't wear out the tape because
Yeah.
that's a concern. But we can do several at the same time, and that's how the tape you have was made. So it is a copy of the master tape. It's literally one generation away from the tape that we recorded on, which it's also good for fidelity because that's as close as you're gonna
Yeah.
get.
Yeah.
And it's pretty rare in the tape world that you can do that. And what you're getting is a quarter inch 15 IPS CCIR copy, but for the people out there who want NAB or who want a different format, we can make that happen too, but that's more of like a on request kind of thing. Like the
So
usual format is what you have.
I'll just mention to people, if you can see there on the label, you've got the alignment tones. So
Yeah.
you can set your machine up properly, and
Yeah.
um, yeah, what you're listening to is as good as it gets, really, without
Thank
having
you.
the one and only tape that was initially recorded. You know,
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And yeah, the tones are important because you gotta, it's really much better if you can set your machine to read it properly, and the test tones will allow you to do that. And so I feel it's an important thing to do. And so we put test tones on all the copy, on all the tapes. Yeah.
no, I really appreciate that. I think that's a really good benefit. But it is, it is just, I do prefer it to vintage. I
Thank
mean,
you.
it's just, it's phenomenal stuff. Really, really love it. And I just got to say thanks for coming on and chatting a bit about it.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the support. It's really nice to see you, and I appreciate the enthusiasm and you keeping the tape thing going. And it's a great it's a great thing.
I
So
mean,
thank you very much. I
yeah.
really appreciate it.
I mean, tapes. To me, it is. Well, tape is the ultimate. Like we said, it's what I've got
Yeah.
here is a first generation copy off of the you know I would say I mean, it is the master tape, but the master tape is so rarely the tape that was initially recorded. It's a generation or two down.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
it
know?
does make a difference. I mean, we
Oh yeah,
at first we tried copying the tape and copying from that, but even making a half-inch 30 IPS copy of the tape, like you'd have to do that really, really well. And even if you do that, it's close, but
yeah.
but you could still hear the difference. So it's kind of like, well, those tapes are expensive. It's a thing because like the man hours to copy it, like you have to do it in real time. You have to spend time calibrating the deck, all that stuff. And the blank tape is really expensive.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, so those are like kind of luxury kind of things. And it's kind of like, well, if you're gonna sell something for like that much money, I feel you really should make it as good as possible. And so being really as close to the original tape as possible and copying that, seemed like the right thing to do because then you're doing the best you can. And it's like, it's just better.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Anyway, look, it's been great chatting to you. I know you can stream Heart. I'll put a link down below in the description
Yep.
because I really urge anyone to have a listen because it's phenomenal sounding, but it's also great music. Really is. Um, sort of uplifting and engaging and fun.
Thank you very much. So yeah, if anybody's interested, you can stream it anywhere, and you can get tapes, all analog vinyl and CDs at analogtonefactory.com, which is, the website of the label that we created, which is called Analog Tone Factory.
Okay, well, look, great to chat to you. I'll say cheerio now.
Great to chat, Dave. Thank you very much.
Thanks for watching. Catch you all soon.